So a natural place to start, Geneviève, I was thinking about was finance and the world of finance. Just curious how you got interested and why you decided to pursue studies in that field.
Interesting, because I never thought I would end up in finance at first. So when I started at HEC, I went to study business and I thought I would end publicist. And then I got poked in this investment environment. I remember that La Caisse de dépôt came on my second years of university, and that was my first introduction about what is private equity and this investment. And I thought, how interesting. So then I got interested in the diagnostic financier and leadership strategy. So I guess I have ended up in getting a finance degree, but I was much more interested about understanding the business scope in general. So I think finance was one of the key aspect of my studying, but today my work is probably 20% finance and the rest other stuff.
I was going to say more business and beyond just core finance. But you also spent such a long time in the investment field. So curious in terms of like, if we look at your previous role, I think you spent 15 years at FTQ. What do you think were the biggest lessons from that time at obviously such a flagship institution of Quebec?
Many, because I was lucky enough when I started at the fund, I was 24 years old. And when I left at 39, I was still the youngest of the investment team and one of the rare women in the investment team. So I got the opportunity to be matched with very skilled and experienced people at the fund, because people at the fund and like I.A.S and institutions like that are really doing their career. It's not rare to see 10, 50, 20 years of a trip in those organizations. So I think one of the key elements for me was really to be paired with different people who were very, very experienced and then exposed to such a wide uh, diversity of transactions, meaning getting private to public company, investing to grow a company, restructuring some company with investment. So I really had the opportunity to cover a very wide scope of transactions. I was lucky enough to move from one sector to the other. So I have done a couple of years in manufacturing, such as metal products, first transformation, and then eventually transportation. And then, short story, I went to live in Boston, and I realized I went for 18 months at MIT, and I realized that investment was more about science and technology. So I came back at the phone and I called Geneviève, who's the next CEO of Fonds de Solidarité, and I told her I really need to get into the science environment. So I asked her to go to life science, and I have spent 5 years in the life science group at the end of the fund. So I guess the major key element at the fund was really to be exposed to a diversity of sectors and type of transactions, and being young with paired with experienced people. So that was really a strong learning school for me.
Yeah, it's interesting that you were exposed to so many different sectors of the economy. Any coup de cœur, any sectors that stood out for you that remain, let's say, you remain interested or passionate about?
Ah, definitely the science. The science is when I came back in the life science group, it was for me an opportunity to look at transactions and investment opportunity, but much broader than Quebec based, because the fund, was usually in the past investing in companies in Quebec and in the life science. First, the science is very interesting. The second thing is that we co-invest with so many groups for all around the world, meaning that when you switch in technology, it's not about local investment dynamic, it's about global syndicate. So that was the first time I was exposed to such a different peers and investments, such as Forbion in Europe and Papa's Venture in the United States. So I was really crossing new crowds of investor and funds. We were doing lots of fun of funds. So that was interesting as well as an experience. So definitely science was my favorite sector.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, so I didn't realize that you were also doing as as an LP into funds. So I'm going to come back to that in a second. Why did you decide to leave after 15 years? Like, what made you want to like pursue other opportunities?
I needed to leave the family. So really, the Fonds de Solidarité for me was like a family. I thought, wow, I've done 15 years. I thought it was much longer than I ever wanted to do, no matter what. And I remember when I took the decision, I went to see my vice president, I went to see my CEO, and I went to see my chair of the board at the Fonds de Solidarité because I had to explain why I was leaving. People were not understanding. They were telling me, why is a young talent is leaving the fund? Why are you doing this? And we have to understand the rationale. Is there something that's not doing right at the fund? And I told them I need, and plus I left without being engaged in my next opportunity. And why I did that? Because I really wanted to take a step back, open my mind to see what could be the other opportunity or what I would like to extend my career. And I thought if I was switching directly from the fund to my next experience, I couldn't exactly figure or think about this new possibility. So I have decided to leave the fund. I told them that I was leaving without being engaged in the next opportunity. And I have explained to them that I was doing that because I needed to leave the family, be exposed to another culture, think differently. I think one of the challenge, especially at our age, I'm 42, you have to be careful to build your mindset or your analysis capacity or your cultural set just in one way. And after being with 15 years with the same group, I think it was a big strength, but eventually a weakness. And I thought I really need to expose myself to a different way to think and to learn other way, to be exposed to other culture. Let's say that way. So I left the phone at 39. I took 10 months off with my kids. I have a young family, and I thought it was the best way to do it. I would redo that the same way I've done it.
Yeah, yeah, I could definitely relate to that point of wanting to be challenged a bit and get out of your comfort zone, right? If you feel you're coasting a bit and if you're comfortable, I think it's a good time to explore other opportunities in your career, right? If it's, and I also find it's particularly when you're performing well is a good time to reflect upon it, right? So I kind of see it the same for you, where you were obviously a rock star, you're doing super well, but that was the moment of clairvoyance to explore, okay, what else can I do, and how do I get out of my comfort zone? So I find that
Correct.
lesson is very cool.
And there's one thing I knew as well at some point, and I wasn't sure, but I thought this 15 years of background with this investment experience was probably one of the chapter. But then I thought it's either I'm becoming an investment junkie, such as I'm going fund after fund, or what if I was taking that experience and transit to something else? And I thought I wanted to transit to a second chapter. I didn't know exactly why, but I felt that. So I thought maybe I want to go inside of a company, maybe. So I really wanted, probably I took the chance that I knew at this point that I was maybe getting out of the investment world for a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And
What
I
got you,
did.
yeah. What got you excited about Ange Quebec? Like, so fast forward, I guess 2 years after, you had a few roles, but now recently hired a CEO of Ange Quebec. Why did you accept? What did you see in that opportunity that got you thinking, okay, this is my next move?
Interesting because when Ange, so Spencer Stewart called me for Ange Quebec, and I was already engaged on accepting a new job. I was going back to the investment. We were starting a new investment fund. I was going to be the first person of that team. It was an amazing opportunity to build a fund from scratch in Montreal. Um, and then I got this call. I was doing my test psychometric, so just to imagine how far I was on my opportunity. And Louis Daniel of Spencer Stewart, which I really appreciate as a man, he called me and said, Geneviève, I got this opportunity at Ange Quebec, for you. I think you know very well the investment world, and but I think you're ready for this leadership opportunity. It's a very different role for you. We were doing interviews. Spencer Stewart Spencer Stewart and I, just right after I got off from Fonds de Solidarité, and I said, I'm not ready to go back on the market. So this is where we have connected together. And Louis Daniel told me, I think it's a perfect role for you. We need to reposition Anges Québec. It's a leadership position. It's close to the environment from the transactional world, investment world. It's not directly connected to a fund, but guess what? You could work for a next fund to come and arrive. So I thought, wow, okay, there's something there. Anges Québec has an extensive network in Montreal. I think they have an amazing brand to build from. I thought it was a challenge of repositioning a team, a business model. Anyways, I needed to go to see what was about it. So I went to do the first interview, and I have decided, I think it took 8 days for the entire process to the board. I said to the board, if you're really interested in me, we have to do that in a week or 10 days because I will not pass my other opportunity. And they have made their move, I think, in 6 days with
Wow.
me. So
Wow. So yeah,
it
hats
was a
off
quick
to
process, and I thought
yeah,
they were very courageous.
yeah. I would say hats off to François Gilbert. I think that takes some courage to hire his successor so quickly. So yeah, very cool.
And when I arrived, François Gilbert was already gone for about 2 months.
Yeah. What do you think is your biggest challenge now that you're settled in? Like, is it learning about earlier stage investing? Is it just the diversity of the angel group itself? So just curious as to what do you think are the key challenges you're facing in the role?
Many, there are many, and this is why it's so exciting for me to arrive there at this point of my career. I think all my experience has built me to do what I'm trying to do at Anges Québec. So the biggest challenge is change management, that's for sure. I think our past model was very strong, but the competitive environment, and I'm going to give you an example, but we are seeing new funds coming in every 2 or 3 weeks right now. So you will hear news about new investment funds, seed, pre-seed, new business model, such as Brightspark, other platforms that really connect investors with opportunity. What I'm seeing is that the competitive background has changed drastically for the past 2 years at Anges Québec, and one of the key challenges that I have to do is reposition Anges Québec in this new scope and making sure our business model will still rise in the next 5 years. So today we are the number one and the most organized angel group in Canada. And I'm very proud of that, but I don't assume that we will stay there if we don't evolve as the rest of the market. So I'm really one of the second thing areas really to make sure that our business model is reinventing itself.
Yeah. What's been the most surprising learning since you've joined as CEO?
How extensive is the network of Anges Québec in the community? It's a team of 12 people, but it seems that this organization has, I don't know, 300, 400, 500 connections close to this group, which really makes it alive. I'm always impressed how many and who I can call from Anges Québec and will answer to us. So the quality of the network is really surprising me. It's a very extensive network in Quebec.
Yeah. I think you had mentioned that you're starting to undergo your strategic planning. Have you thought about the vision, like let's say the big, hairy, ambitious goal of where you want to take Ange Quebec, or is it still, like an embryo in your mind and you're not ready to talk about it?
Yeah, well, I'm half of it. So I one of the challenges that I have is that because I'm coming from the investment funds and world, I cannot think this way at Ange Québec. Every day I have to remember that what we're trying to do at Ange Québec is there's a different dynamic. So that's the first thing to say. We have engaged in this new planification stratégique about a month ago, and we expecting to finish in late April. Today, I could say that what I see in my vision, but I'm trying to work with my team to make sure we are arriving to the same target because one of the challenge that we have is really to have a common vision of what should be Ange Québec next. And there are so many aspects of what we could be, that we need to align. So the board, the team, and the rest of it. So today, what I see or what I really would like is that we stay the first group in Canada, that's for sure. But I'm not that much interested about the quantity of the deal that we do rather than the quality of what we're doing. And I want to make sure that when I walk at the Espace CDPQ, where my colleagues of funds are sharing that office space with me, that when they look at Ange Quebec, they say, these guys they better have a good credibility, which means that we have the right group of angel, that we have this diversity in sectors and GRAP that we call it, that if we want to do a deal in fintech, we have 20, 30 angels that are very well known into that space. So they will tend to call us and make deals with us. So I'm really working on this, I would say, deepness and credibility of Ange Quebec.
Yeah, yeah, it's very cool. I mean, like having been a former member, I could attest to the quality of the deal flow that we were exposed to. So I imagine sourcing remains really key, right? So getting entrepreneurs through the door and ensuring that they're high quality pitches. Is that, like you mentioned, that seems to be still the key thing, right? It's the quality of the companies and the projects that are put forth for the members.
Yeah. So sourcing, that's a very interesting, biggest challenge of all funds in Quebec right now. I'm going to tell you why. Um, 5, 7 years ago, I knew three groups that were doing seed and pre-seed investment. I'm coming from the Series A world. Everybody was doing say A, B, and plus and growing scale up. But the guys from the seed and pre-seed, not that many in Montreal. Now, maybe we have 5 times worse capital coming in the market, but we don't create as twice and third times more innovation or new companies. So that means that the current pipeline of new companies, new startups, new innovation is growing, but not at the same pace as the capital coming in. Great news for startup. That means for Ange Quebec, we really need to rethink our investment process, our proposal, how quick and sharp and agile are we? And because I think entrepreneurs will have many different options moving forward compared 7 years ago. So that's the current context about how do we make sure at Ange Quebec that we have the people, so the angel, and the right business mindset or investment process to attract the best projects in.
Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned like the amount of dry powder. There seems to be like a lot of this, the research is showing that there's a lot more access to capital, which is a good thing, like you mentioned, for early stage startups or later stage as well. But it seems that there's also kind of like a challenge for funds because like, A, how do you position yourself now differently than all the myriad of other funds, right? So like your unique selling proposition seems to be a bit of a challenge. Like I'm not saying this specifically for Ange, but just generally in the sector, right? So how do you differentiate sources of capital? So curious as to how you think about that challenge. You mentioned the key points of people, process, but I'd like to hear maybe riff a little bit more on how do you make Ange Quebec incontournable?
That's a good question. I'm into this. I've been with Ange Quebec for 3 months. As an example, every 2 weeks, we're thinking about our investment process. So how do we act on pipeline strategies? How do we think our selection process? Who should be with us to look at opportunities? Who are ambassadors with us? How fast are we on the due diligence process? So we're really decomposing every part of it. But you know what? I'm going to tell you a secret. There will be some fine tunings, but I think we are in about entering of designing an entire new investment process. And so there's a time after coming in that you think you can tweak some stuff, but I think we'll emerge with new investment process overall. So I think right now we're really um, taking this period where I'm the newcomer, so I can get in and I know the investment process. So it's not easy for me to think with the investment people, but it's a bit easier for me to do this exercise. So I re-question every part of it right now. Sometimes it's exhausting for my team, but they are very engaged and thrilled. And I think they're arriving at themselves to say, what if we totally need a new way to do it? That means many different stuff, such as should we create the angel funds to match up the lead investor when they get in? Should we make an investment process outside of the réunion mensuelle every monthly that we stream? Should we invest in special vehicle structure where there's less people front in every transaction, so we make sure we have this investment process which is a bit more predictable in time? So we are really rethinking the entire way of what we're doing things presently. So the outcome is not clear yet, but we have ideas coming in.
Yeah, that's very cool. And the way you're talking about it, it's like the customer journey. If you talk to a business, it's like all the touch points our customers go through, but you seem to be looking at it the exact same way. It's like the entrepreneur journey. It's like from, like the first meeting to post closing, and like making it more entrepreneur friendly, and also matching up obviously with the needs of the fund. One thing you didn't mention is obviously, well, I think you mentioned it in passing, is Anges Quebec Capital, right? So being able to match up with angels, with obviously a larger source of capital. So from what I understand, you're going through that process of a new fund for Anges Quebec Capital. So I'd like to hear a little bit about this process of raising a fund, which I imagine is almost like a separate job for what it sounds like.
Yeah, well, I one of the aspects that really raised my interest when I got a call from Ange Quebec was, okay, there's a fund number one. I know it's closed since 2019. Is there a project to bring on the next fund? Because I think one of the reasons that we were strong in the past is because we had a fund, a capacity to match what the angel are investing, which means, such an example, if the angel are investing directly 500K, the fund could match the same amount. There is an independent process, but that's a philosophy behind it. So they said, yeah, Geneviève, I think the project is well aligned in the pipeline. And one of my partners, Serge Beauchemin, is an entrepreneur from the technology. He's the one who's leading the arrival of the fund. So we're co-leading Ange Quebec and Ange Quebec Capital, because at the end of the day, no matter cares what's capital, what's Ange Quebec, what's the network, what's the fund. Ange Quebec is Ange Quebec when we get out in the market. What I really love about what was coming in front of me is that the fact that Serge Beauchemin is not from the investment world. He's a tech guy. He's an entrepreneur. He talks and smells and thinks like an innovative guy. And I thought, imagine what we can do together if I understand the investment dynamic, and he's really capable, as you said, to be the front face in this. What do we want to be in this entrepreneur community? I need entrepreneurs with me myself. If we want to start a fund being managed by another financial guy, I don't think we have a very good positioning in this market. So I thought, so the fund is coming in operation in probably early April. We're working the closing documents right now. It's going to be a fund of first closure of 65 million. We'll do mostly seed, a bit of a pre-seed, innovation mostly, all sectors related to tech or life science or med tech or so, but it has to be mostly disruption, innovation. So we're not looking for just standard innovation, but really something that changed the way that people are doing or consuming things. So we're getting a bit of uh, how can I say this? At Ange Québec, we're doing de l'innovation locale to the ambition of the potential of international innovation. So I think this positioning that we're engaging Serge and I, it's getting clearer and clearer with the community that we're surrounding ourselves. So we're not going to do at this point de l'innovation locale, d'envergure locale. It's not where we want a standpoint. But some angel groups could do innovation locale in the perspective of just growing a local business for family interests and stuff like that. but this is not where we're going right now. So the fund is coming into operation in a month or 6 weeks. And we are every week working on the investment dynamic from the two groups.
Yeah, very cool. Best of luck with the closing of the fund and launch of it. I'll go back to your previous point we were talking about. Like, I feel like we should do a round two eventually, talk about the early stage investment process and the findings and how you've improved it. I'm very curious to hear on what you guys are going to put forward and what will be the improvements in that process. Maybe to talk about early stage investing in Quebec. Have you seen it? Because now you're in that world. Where do you see? What do you see as big opportunities to increase areas of innovation, right? So you said the limiting factor is the companies, not the capital. So what can we do to increase that rate of innovation, entrepreneurship, etc.?
Well, that's a question that I'm highly interested in and that I'm learning, from my past experience at the Fonds. As I said, I was seeing Series A's and plus. Now I'm in the pre-seed and seed, and I'm much more interested about where is it coming, the innovation. And it comes from, an ecosystem where there's a strong university, there's deep research, there's really connections from we could do innovations as an evolution perspective. When you want to really do disruptive innovation, usually it's really connected with, I would say, a strong ecosystem of research, university, incubator, accelerator. So you really need this. I call it le poumon de l'innovation. When I lived in Boston, I was on the MIT campus, and you should see all the venture capital fund connected to the university and streaming the innovation out with entrepreneurs. So what we need is great talent, which is a key aspect in Montreal. Great talent, amazing innovation. Where's the innovation is coming? The deep one, we call it the deep tech. It comes from research. It comes from university. It comes with les incubateurs, les accélérateurs. It's really just a guy in their basement alone. There are some, but it's more rare. So I think at Anges Québec, I'm trying, and we have done it where we're currently connecting with people such as the crowd from Santec. I mean, it's amazing what they're doing at Santec right now. It's the quality of companies that getting out of these cohorts are really impressing me. So in Montreal, sometimes we talk in Quebec about other regions and should Quebec City should be strong in Sherbrooke and all those local areas. But in technology, I compare myself with Boston. I compare myself with California, and we have amazing innovation system in Montreal. I am proud of what we have, but what we need is capital, and I think we're entering that phase. And then the talent. The talent is a challenge. So we need really to find the right talent with the right innovation. So this is how I see it at that point. So at Anges Québec, what does that mean? Is I believe we need to invest a bit more early stage to make sure we are attached to the best innovation opportunity. Because if you don't, the later syndicate will be full eventually for the best opportunity. I'm a strong believer to that. But what does that mean to invest earlier stage? Less complexity about the investment type, less governance structure, because it's a total different environment when you are in the pre-seed compared to the seed. So I would close on that because I could go
Yeah.
on and on.
Yeah, I think one of the elements of a successful ecosystem is also exits. So like later stage, I think, which also fuels earlier stage. And looking at your profile in corporate development and M&A, I feel there's a lack of M&A as a skill set in the province. And please correct me if you feel the opposite of this, but I feel there's not enough a vibrant ecosystem of M&A in Quebec when it comes to like a company that's obviously later stage that seeks to acquire and grow that way. It seems like it's misunderstood. So to poke you on this, A, am I wrong? And B, just to hear your thoughts on the subject.
So you are not wrong. Uh, we don't exit enough companies, and that's a very delicate subject in Quebec because we want to have success to share, but we want to exit local. So it's a very struggling environment. But I will share that in technology, we are not in a local dynamic. We have to understand that the investors, the syndicates are building out of Montreal with Montreal. So in the best opportunity, we have to understand that the investment dynamic is not a local one. So once you have shareholders from other geography, it means that the market is open. At HEC Quebec, we have been existing for 10 years. We don't exit enough companies. It's difficult to really exit at the seed and pre-seed stage. And maybe this is not the model for the angel to exit after 5 years, but after 10 years, it's a way too long. So what we need in startup industry that all of us will benefit, it's exit that makes us an attractive market in Canada in general. Why? Because if we want to attract co-investor from Series A, Series B, scaling up investment money, we need good stories in Canada. Not only in Montreal, not only in Quebec, but as a Canadian extremely strong market. We need data. So when we have PitchBook who's running our data about what's the valuation, what are the exits, we need to emerge as a Canadian community saying we have, and I think we're slowly starting to build that story, but we're not there yet, but we're getting there. So we're kind of in the early stage process, I would
Yeah.
position it.
Yeah. So totally agree with that viewpoint about how it can improve, and we're getting there, but it also takes time. Maybe a question to go back to, I guess, just your vast experience about the ecosystem. What do you think are sectors of the economy that just don't get enough attention or underappreciated that you think are on a huge growth trajectory? So we'll be hearing about them, but we're not hearing about them just yet.
That's an interesting question. I think I'm amazed to see that during this pandemic, the ESG model is taking such an importance. So what I'm referring here is the investment with a high impact other than just the economical one. And I'm seeing a real progress in interest about creating different business models, which means that we need success in clean techs, we need success in those impact. I call them investment impact, but it's not just a trend. It's coming from the pressure from the big institutional investors that are asking for diversity in dans les investissements d'impact. But now we're seeing it really pushing from the startups community, bringing on new business models. So I think we're seeing the rise of clean tech and environment tech and other stuff related to the impact investment, but we're not there yet. So I think the interest is there, but we have so much to prove still. So I would say that we need to get more attention and interest about creating different business models, because I think the current period of the pandemic is really making us, all the investment fund manager, about what do we want to create next. And the next just big thing related to the economic exit might not be sufficient about what we want to achieve. So I think there's a deep reflection behind it right now, and I see it on the startup field. The rest of it, life science as an example, 5, 7 years ago, we had maybe one or two investment fund in Canada who had exit and success. One of them is CTI Investment in Montreal, but we couldn't really find a strong investment thesis in Montreal on a Canadian perspective. But now we have a very strong story. So life science is really building up itself in the molecule, dans le développement de la molécule. But I think we're entering in good fintech business right now. I think the ed tech is booming. We see amazing things in retail right now in Montreal. So people are thinking retail in a very good way. So that's what I see.
Yeah. I'm like, all subjects I can ask you a million more questions on, but I want to be respectful of your time as well, Geneviève. Maybe on the last point, everyone says, "Oh, retail is dead," but not really. People still need to buy stuff, right? And are also the research universities when it comes to life sciences, I think, is also underappreciated in terms of some of the just very cool primary research that's coming out. I think the bridge is turning these into commercial projects, right, where companies can grow and scale. I think that'd be the next wave I see coming, which is kind of cool.
There are, I just want to tell you, there are so many waves coming in. It's difficult to catch them all because I have never seen that many waves coming at the same time. Let me
Yeah.
tell you, there is a huge disruption about many sectors at the same time. So private health sector will evolve. FinTech is booming crazy. Retail, you should see what we see in the new retail experience that's coming ahead. It's nothing you have never seen. I mean, we will see, and I have to say that you will see emerge the craziest business model we have never seen for the past 100 years in many different fields. So I'm talking about engineering, gene therapy, mind extensions, really stuff that makes us think about the future. Yeah.
Yeah. Exciting time to be CEO of an angel group. So,
Exciting time to be in startups.
yeah, very cool. Geneviève, I want to thank you for your time. This is a fascinating conversation. Maybe final question would be is if people want to reach out or learn more about Ange Quebec, what's the best way to do so?
Oh, they can write to me on LinkedIn. I think LinkedIn, we find us very easier than on website these days. I mean, our team is there. They could contact me in every possible way, but LinkedIn, just chat me and I'll answer back.
Sounds good. Geneviève, merci beaucoup.
Merci. Bye.